second vaccine jab has knocked me the hell out, so put up that teal coloured thing with my cartoon face on it? Hi. So Red Bull's penalty appeal from the British Grand Prix has been rejected. I guess we should use the correct term, which is petition, but either way the FIA has told them to go away. And because there's so much legal mumbo-jumbo in this video and the FIA's writing, let's see how many mentions of allegedly or its derivatives I can fit into this video. Starting now. Now, under F1 rules, if something happens, then teams can appeal the decision, whether it's against them or not, and they have a certain time frame in which to lodge those protests. And protests have been lodged in the past. Some have had the penalties they received rescinded, and others have stood. The most famous example is probably from 1976, when James Hunt had his Spanish Grand Prix win stripped from him because the car's rear wing was found to be about an inch too wide. But they successfully appealed when they presented the FIA with evidence that the wider rear wing didn't improve performance. So 2 months later, the win was given back to Hunt. And in an appeal that's a bit more comical in nature, Ferrari tried to appeal Sebastian Vettel's time penalty at the 2019 Canadian Grand Prix by using Karun Chandhok's analysis from Sky Sports. You can't take that kind of thing seriously. And then there's the protests lobbied against the tracing point from 2019, when the team was fined €400,000 and stripped of 15 constructors' points. But the only time that a penalty has been made harsher in F1 history that I can find is Eddie Irvine in 1994. He was initially given a $10,000 fine back when F1 used dollars over euros because the euro hadn't been invented yet, and he got a one-race ban for causing a crash at Interlagos that almost removed Martin Brundle's head. But after an appeal, it was bizarrely up to a 3-race ban. I don't understand either. That's not every example in the 70 plus years of Formula 1 history. Obviously, I'll no doubt get "you forgot," but I didn't forget, I just didn't want to take up too much of your time. He says, taking up your time with disclaimers. Red Bull was basically protesting the fact that Hamilton got a 10-second penalty and was still able to win the race, while Verstappen had to go to Coventry Hospital to be checked over after his car was written off. I think for Red Bull it was something about punishment fitting the crime, which is not how the FIA hands out penalties, which I know is a crap system, but it is what it is. But given the championship fight, it does smell like we want this guy to have a 10-race ban and more penalty points than you can wave a stick at. In the original incident, the FIA deemed Hamilton to be mostly at fault, not entirely at fault, which leaves room to suggest that Max was to blame in some form, hence the soft penalty. And I'm not saying that's the case though, before I get absolutely creamed in the comments, because that's what the FIA decided. I don't hand out the penalties, and I know there are people that want Hamilton to be 100% at fault, which is why Driver 61's video became the best video on the subject, because he said it was all on Hamilton, and everyone else was biased because they said it takes two to tango. So it makes you wonder why we bother with this sort of content, to be honest. And then there was the media back and forth, with Verstappen calling Lewis and Mercedes disrespectful, Christian Horner being called Whinger Spice on Twitter, which is my personal favourite, and me just sat here thinking, what if it was the other way around, but at Zandvoort? But I try not to think about that because thinking hurts. So what actually happens at these appeals? Well, you have representatives from both parties involved, basically producing evidence, and they're limited to 3 each. So for Mercedes, it was Andrew Shovlin, Ron Meadows, and Valtteri It's James Vowles from Mercedes, and then Christian Horner, Ben Waterhouse, and Jonathan Wheatley of Red Bull, with Michael Masi in the middle as the referee, I guess. Then in this meeting that was done over video conference call, so I'm assuming it was done through Zoom or Microsoft Teams or whatever the hell it is, then in this meeting it is the job of the complainant, in which case Red Bull, to offer evidence that is new, significant, and relevant, and that this evidence has to be discovered and not created. So what Red Bull did is that they presented evidence they regarded was new to the hearing, which we'll get to in a bit, which included GPS data from the cars. They also showed Lewis's overtake on Leclerc near the end of the race, arguing that Leclerc and Hamilton would have crashed if Lewis had taken the exact same line he'd done on lap 1, and also claimed that Hamilton would have had to have braked 23 metres earlier on lap 1 to make the corner. They also had test driver Alex Albon drive the corner in the 2019 car in an attempt to recreate Hamilton's exact line, speed and understeer, which was odd. And the actual notes from the meeting are on an internet, and I'll link them down in the description as opposed to putting them in the video, because you know what F1 copyright bots are like. But at the bottom of the first page, the reason for the case being dismissed are as follows. The competitor, Red Bull, provided the stewards with a letter dated the 23rd of July 2021, with appendices setting out its arguments in support of the petition. Basically, they outlined their intent to protest. Isn't legal wording great? Appendix number 2 consisted principally of what the competitor alleged to be new evidence for the purposes of Article 14, the bit in the rulebook that they're allowed to protest under. The alleged new evidence consisted of slides created by the competitor for the petition derived from the GPS data available to them of the cars involved at turn 9, Copse Corner, namely car 44, Lewis Hamilton, and car number 33, Max Verstappen. The FIA then threw out the petition because what was presented to the stewards was not a significant and relevant new element that was discovered that was unavailable to parties seeking the review at the time of the decision concerned. In plain English, the FIA had decided that Red Bull had created, not discovered, this evidence. Hence the decided gag earlier. So now that we've explained all of that, what's got everybody talking at the minute is something that was lodged down at the bottom of the steward's report. This paragraph in particular. The stewards note with some concern certain allegations made in the competitor's above letter. Such allegations may or may not have been relevant to the stewards if the petition for review had been granted. The stewards may have addressed these allegations directly in any decision that would have followed. The petition having been dismissed, the stewards make no comments on those allegations. But I want to hear them! But then again, the FIA and transparency don't really go hand in hand because we're still speculating about what they did to Ferrari's alleged iffy engines. But whatever was said, the stewards considered it enough to spook them and note it down. So what could have been said? I mean, it could be the stewards were never going to disqualify or heavily penalise Lewis Hamilton at his home Grand Prix, and we have precedent for that, in terms of those allegations anyway, given that Charles Leclerc forced Hamilton off at Monza in 2019 and only got a black and white driving standards flag because the FIA wanted to go home to their wives that night, and that's an exaggeration, by the way. It could also be an accusation that Mercedes and the FIA are in bed together, which is a tad comical considering Hamilton has been penalised and racked up penalty points more than enough times in the last couple of years, and the FIA has banned frick, trick suspension, changed the car rules after 3 seasons, cut away part of the floor, and also banned the so-called party mode to try and slow them down. Or it could just simply be a childish, I fucked your mum from Helmut Marko to Toto Wolff. But based off Mercedes' response, it could simply be something libelous, and there have also been alleged racially aggravated comments made by individuals within Red Bull Racing in the last couple of weeks. But whether those are actually true or just Twitter wind-ups, I don't know, I can't find anything, so assume it's just been made up. Although, in 2020, the Red Bull company, rather than the team, fired 3 executives for a world map that had racial stereotypes on it, which is probably where that story came from. But it looks like that Meadows, Chauvelin and Valls have seen this letter with those allegations on and declined to comment, although the Mercedes team put out a statement saying something along the lines of Red Bull libelous statements about Lewis Hamilton. Now, you either like Lewis or you don't, that's fine, but when you're supposed to be a professional sports team and making we can just speculate what was said, you just look childish, to be honest. Now, Red Bull has been pretty militant about this protest, and some were suggesting they could be charged with bringing the sport into disrepute, if indeed the allegations were true. True in that the allegations against Mercedes and Lewis were made, not true in what they assumed was... you get the idea. And to my knowledge, that charge has only been made once, and that was in 1992 to the Andrea Moda team, and they were actually kicked out of the championship as a result, but it won't go that far this time. They'll probably not even get charged. So the situation has now been put to bed. Lewis's penalty hasn't been increased, the case has been dismissed. We now go to Hungary. Well, they are at Hungary currently, and no doubt Christian Horner's going to mention it at any given opportunity over the next few days. But what do you think? Did Red Bull waste everybody's time, or did they actually have a case? Leave all thoughts down in the comments section. I don't know why I'm telling you it's down there. You know where it is. It's YouTube. It's been there forever. And, obviously get a discussion going, because it's why I do this series after all. And while heading down there, if you like what you've seen, click the thumb up, and for more like this, click subscribe with the bell on so you never miss a future video. And big thanks, as always, go out to the patrons of Patreon for their continued support. And if you want to join them or just join in the Discord natter, I'll leave all links down in the description for you, along with links to the actual FIA sheet thing with their findings. So until next time, I've been AdmiralLaWind. Have a great day wherever you live in the world, and I'll see you all again soon for another video. So until then, goodbye.